Hello there.
Welcome back, my friend.
Hello, what have we here?
Jedi, we've been expecting you.
Knew I could count on you.
Hello.
Welcome to the rebellion.
What fun!
Hey everyone, Hybrid here with an interesting conversation topic type video. So the other day I was having a discussion with the legendary Blitz Transmissions and Shelf Life. Shout out to two great creators there. And we were talking about the hypothetical, what would it take for you to stop collecting the Black Series? And I really liked that discussion, and a lot of discussions that we end up having, while playing our games, do inspire some of these topical type videos. So I had to bring this one over here. Generally, as you might expect if you've been around for a while, I was the most forgiving of the group. So I mean, some very brief background. I have been with the Black Series since day one. I have been here since some dark times. My very first Black Series figure I picked up all the way back in 2013. It was X-Wing Pilot Luke. I completed the orange line as they were coming out. I had every blue line as they were coming out. I missed very few red and black box figures. That was when I started making my grown-up money. It was actually easier to get those as the production ramped up. And, throughout over the years, I have been not a completionist. I definitely missed some exclusives, but probably 95% there on the line. And really only recently have I started cherry picking a little bit more. Really feeling more comfortable not being completionist. That's something that's changed for me. I'm generally happier making that choice because I was picking up everything, even like Legends stuff I didn't care about so much. And it finally, I finally like found my niche, where I'm like, I'm gonna buy most things. But yeah. So anyway, when it comes to a line like the Black Series, I've got a few things that I do really like about it. For starters, despite everyone constantly freaking out about the price hike of like 3 years ago, I still think that for the like $27-28 price point, you are getting generally a very good action figure with all of your Star Wars pickups. And before you're like, well, they used to be $20. Well, where are you going to get a Mafex or a Figuarts for $27? Like, it's still arguably a very nice sculpt the majority of the time, a very nice likeness. You get enough accessories for some of the iconic poses of the character you might be buying. And again, I think for that $25 to $30 price point, you are getting something very nice the majority of the time. I really do like that the Hasbro Star Wars team has been evolving the line. It's old news now, but the photoreal face technology is revolutionary. I don't think they could ever get away with releasing a figure without using that again. I know that's across Hasbro, Marvel Legends and G.I. Joe is doing it as well, but it was a very, very nice thing for Hasbro to give us collectors. I love that the Black Series team is experimenting with articulation, more reminiscent of import figures. The butterfly joints are where it started, but now we're starting to mess with ball joint wrists. They tried that toe articulation on Boba Fett. While some people didn't like how that articulation came out, to me, I'm just like, hey, you know what? They're in the shop, they're imagining, they're engineering, they're trying new things. Like, I like the look of the idea being tried. It's a good look for the brand. I feel like that's a criticism that a lot of people hold a little bit too high when they're criticizing these figures. When they do something like the toe articulation on the Boba Fett, is even if their first attempt here wasn't knocking it out of the park, like they tried adding something new here, and to me, like, I appreciate the innovation. Something that I have been very critical of myself lately has been the wiring that they've been trying in some of the capes. The Darth Vader cape in the Bespin Duel set, and the skirt in Lord Starkiller. In my opinion, they did not perform, and I criticize those things. And in my opinion, I think that Hasbro, as a toy company with American regulation, you're not allowed to do this on a kid's toy, even though they're not a kid's toy, but they're Hasbro, so everything has to be treated like a kid's toy. I don't think Hasbro can do wired soft goods very well. But I do appreciate them trying something because I've heard a lot of people talk about adding wired soft goods to the line. So, even if not everything is perfect, I generally think everything is good enough as a minimum, although I think a lot of these figures are generally perfect. I'm very receptive to these things. However, I'm not without criticism ever. As I mentioned, those wired soft goods for me were not it. And the big thing that really came, the big agreement with me and Blitz and Shelf on that discussion that I mentioned, again, shout out to great creators, is with the prices getting higher, they're regularly creeping up. And I'm going to be honest, something that I might speculate on is all the Maul Shadow Lord figures are on Amazon for pre-order for $29.99 right now. I ponder if another price increase isn't coming, not to get everyone watching this freaking out. But, when you're talking a $26, $27 figure, maybe potentially very soon $30 figure, my forgiveness for mistakes is definitely getting very low. And not even just mistakes, but also like boneheaded budget saving, choices. One of the things that I think of is the very recently revealed Imperial Warlord figure from the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Now, this guy is arguably a bit of a glup shitto. I expect, because the movie's not out yet. Maybe this guy might have crazy screen time, and in that case, that actually makes it worse. But I'm gonna assume this guy's probably a glup shitto. We see him for 5 minutes or less in the movie, and it's just an Imperial officer. And they reused Imperial officer limbs from the original Imperial officer body way back in like 2016, 2017, and it has just horrible articulation even though they reworked that body for Grand Admiral Thrawn, a year ago, and it doesn't have the double pin knees. And it's, going to be a $27 Target exclusive. And I'm not against reuse, but why not reuse the better pieces, instead of these old pieces? This old Imperial officer body mold needs to be scrapped. And the fact that this new Remnant Warlord has a brand new torso that they had to sculpt it because he's a bit of a heavier set gentleman. The old limbs were made to fit this when they could have just made the new limbs fit this. Like, why did they do that? It just makes it look worse. I don't understand. It's just a bad choice. And you know what? Way back when figures were $20, man, maybe I could put my head in the sand a little bit more. But it's one of those things where I'm like, that feels just blatantly wrong, not even cheap. Just there was better reuse available, and you're arguably using the worst option you could have. I think with these figures rapidly approaching $30, reusing any old mold that has double pinned knees and no longer can be acceptable. I think of last year's Elite Praetorian Guard from The Mandalorian Season 3. Again, like something iconic from that finale that we had been waiting on, and then they're like, well, we'll give it legs from 2017, but we'll take the thigh swivel off of it so you can't even rotate the leg. Like that figure genuinely from the hips down is terrible, and it's something that I really, really was excited for. And then, you get this new Imperial Warlord coming, and his legs and arms are going to be terrible. And when the prices are higher than ever before, you got to stop doing stuff like that. And then I also think of some of the other cost-cutting measures that we have started to see in the line lately, such as the unpainted lightsaber hilts. That has been immensely frustrating to me. We have had our lightsaber hilts painted silver from day one of the line, and they have only just recently started to really cheap out there. And I'm like, you know what? A lightsaber hilt can only be a couple cents of paint, I would imagine. And it's like, what are we doing? Why do they have to be these flat gray plastic, lightsaber hilts? It was really my only criticism of one of my favorite figures in the line, Ezra from Peridea from the Ahsoka series. Ezra from Peridea was one of those figures that I was super excited for since he appeared in the show. It took forever to get him. And then finally we get this great figure with just this weird unpainted lightsaber hilt just felt like a little bit of a slap in the face, you know. Savage Opress, one of the most requested villain figures in the line from Clone Wars fans, going all the way back to the beginning of the line. You know, finally we get Savage Opress, weird gray plastic lightsaber hilt. It was just a trend last year, and it's just like, why choose to do such a thing? We got that fan channel wave of figures earlier this year, and some of them were painted and some of them weren't. And it's just, why go cheap on like the fine detail right at the very end? You know, you give us a great figure and then you cheap out on the accessory just a little bit, you know. And I'm not saying give me more accessories even. I'm just saying if you're only going to give me one accessory, give me a good accessory, you know, like paint it. And if the price of figures needs to go up $1 to, you know, keep the lightsaber hilts painted, then just do it, raise it, you know, like if it's ultimately that tight a profit margin. It's just really been frustrating. You have Commando Droid Vibro Swords being done in pinkish purple plastic. You have these multi-pack figures coming out. The ARC Trooper from the Commando Droid multi-pack, you know, missing paint, being just blatantly incorrect, and then also not giving you the couple dollar discount that the 2-packs usually give us. I can just think of a lot of little things here where it's like there have been a lot of things lately that have been disappointing, and it used to be these things were few and far between for me. I know some people will find something to criticize about every Black Series release ever. That's not me. But you know, when you have me starting to somewhat regularly be like, well, this is wrong, and also this is wrong, and I'm not really liking that, and that was a bad choice, Hasbro. Why'd you do that, Hasbro? You know, there's definitely some mistakes being made. And, you know, again, I'm not the critical guy. I don't like mega complaining about the line. You know, so, you know, like some of my friends, you know, they were kind of like, hey, this would be my line where I dipped. And, you know, mine was a little bit more favorable. You know, I was like, hey, as long as these mistakes continue to be, you know, minimal, like, I'm here. But truly, what would it take me to quit collecting the Black Series? You know, there's a part of me where it's almost like I've been collecting this line so long, it is a little bit of who I am at this point, because like collecting has become a major hobby for me. A lot of the friends that I talk to every day are friends that I've made through collecting. My family knows to call me when they make the grocery run up to Walmart, you know, just say, hey, these figures are in the aisle. Is there anything you're looking for? You know, it's something where, you know, my parents who don't collect at all kind of, you know, have just picked up on little things because I just talk about it because it's what I like. And, you know, so like if I were to actually step away from the Black Series, it would have to be a really radical change, because I generally do like where the line is at, and I think we are generally at a high point, even though we are getting somewhat more regular mistakes than we had gotten before. I still don't think that this is a bad time. Remember, I've been here from the beginning. I have been here through all of the horrible butterfaces of the first 40 figures of the Red and Black line. You know, I mean, I have been here, you know, so, you know, arguably, I don't know that there's a world that I ever completely cut off the Black Series. You know, if they start making insane mistakes on everything, you know, then maybe, but I think I would still be cherry picking some of my favorite figures out. The only way that I would ever truly, like, cut ties totally with the line is if they started really heavy budget cuts. I quit messing with 375 figures back in the day in the late 2000s, early 2010s, because like after 2012, all of a sudden every figure switched to 5 POA out of nowhere. And then I was like, well, these Black Series have articulation, so I'm not going to touch these 5 POA garbage kids toys anymore. I'm going to jump up to Black Series. That would probably be, it would be something radical, you know, whether they started cutting articulation and paint apps and, to keep it economical. If the price went up, if it started, like if the price went like really up, I'm not talking, people freak out when they go up like $1, and I'm like, really? Like $1 is the difference between you enjoying it or not? Like I'm talking like a radical, you start getting your main line up into like the $40 range. Hey, maybe we talk a little bit. You're starting to get within, $20 of a Figuarts. But also, like Figuarts figures aren't even that much better or better at all in some cases. Figuarts can't make a face to save their life, and they make what, 3 Star Wars figures a year, and 2 of them are repacks. Like, so it's like, what else would you collect? It's kind of like saying I'm gonna collect Black Series, or I'm not gonna collect 112 Star Wars, other than like 2 action figures a year. Like, so I don't know. There's a line. I think generally I'm here to stay no matter what. But I'm not buying everything anymore. I have not cut back drastically. I went from buying 95% of everything to maybe 80. If the line all of a sudden became the original trilogy line again, maybe I would cut back somewhat drastically. And I really like that we've got a little bit more of a prequel, a little bit more of a new media focus, because a lot of us kids, we're making grown-up money now that we're watching the prequel, when they were coming out. New media, of course, has to have focus. My interest is not in the original trilogy when it comes to Star Wars. So, again, I really think the line's in a great place, and I really am struggling to picture a reality where I don't collect it anymore. I can see things happening that make me slow down, but not. I don't know what could make me cold turkey. What do you think? As I have rambled on way too long here, is there anything that can make you quit collecting? I guess space. But even then, I don't know. My space is getting a little bit limited, and I'm just gonna figure it out. But have you cut yourself back? Where are you on it? Is there anything that they could do that would make you go, you know what? No more Black Series. Fire off in the comments below. Let's have a fun discussion about it. Keep it chill. Remember, we're just talking about toys here. I'm going to dip. May the Force be with you, and I will catch you next time. Bye.